Good afternoon. I know it's a long day for all of you and you've had lunch. So maybe you'll be feeling sleepy. And then you would also not want a grey haired, सफेद बाल वाले को प्रवचन देने का तो इंतजार आप लोग कर नहीं होंगे. I am assuring you it's not going to be all that boring at least. The journey itself is so intriguing for me as I look back. This Think for India movement is something that started, I think, when I was in age 8 and not going to school. मैं स्कूल जाता नहीं था, but the journey itself is so beautiful that I advise the government of India on how education should be, on the state of Queensland on how skilling should be, and the US state on how charter schools should be. So I think for a person who's not gone to school, it's a good deal of work that has happened in the life, and that is the reason why this Think for India came into being. So at age 8, not going to school, fending for the family of 7, we were 5 children, mother and father, and my father was earning 60 rupees. So we thought that I should fend for the family. So I was looking for opportunities. So I found this hand cart. This hand cart was lying empty in one of the major locations of Vishakhapatnam, a bustling city, and it had a telephone number written in red paint. And I called up the number and said, I want this hand cart on rent. Now, the idea was that my mother was an illiterate person and she only knew how to make idlis. Belonging to a South Indian family, that's very natural. So I thought, let me sell idlis. Now, beside this hand cart, there were 11 hand carts that were already selling idlis. And this was the 12th. But at age 8, I thought that that's a good thing to do. Whatever is there, I should sell. So when I called him up, he thought that a young boy was calling maybe some prank call. So he said, come home, we'll sit and discuss. So I went to his home. It was a small shack. His wife used to make pickles and he used to sell on a cycle. So we had a deal. I thought that I'll offer him 50 rupees for a rent per month. But he said, no, I don't want your 50 rupees. Do one thing. Every day sell 10 bottles of pickles for me, which is 100 rupees, 10 rupees per bottle of pickle. And I'll not give it to you for free. For every 10 bottles sold, I'll give you one bottle free. So that's an incentive of 10%. So that night when I went back, good deal done, I thought. I went back home to sleep at around 11:15. I realized that there were 11 hand carts which were already selling the same thing. And I was the 12th one and it's not easy to sell. They are veterans. So that night I thought, what is it that I can do special? So that is when the Think for India movement started at age 8. And I did not realize that it had started, but then I started thinking that night that there is a challenge in front of me. I have a face off. And what I did was that night, I figured out two characteristics of idli. For those of you who know idli, across the world, idli is white in color. That is the first characteristic. The second characteristic is idli is bland, no taste. So you have to have it with chutney and sambar. Across the world, this is a characteristic that. So I figured out if I am able to see that either of these two or both the characteristics go, that's a USP for me. So I used to like my mother's bindi. If you've seen Shah Rukh Khan's movie, Ek Chutki Sindoor Ki Kimat, Tum Kya Jano Ramesh Babu, I used to love my mother's bindi. So I thought what I'll do is I'll pick up that one pickle incentive bottle in advance, take a pinch of pickle, it was dark, deep red, and put it at the center of the idli. So now idli ceased to be white. It had a red bindi in between, which neither of those 11 hand carts had. And the second is idli ceased to be bland because that pickle was spicy, tangy. So with both these USPs, the next day when I opened the shop, it ran like hotcakes. So all the 11 hand carts put together within a period of 1 month, I would sell the amount of idlis that all 11 put together were selling. And that is how I thought that if I can think not the normal way, because all of them were thinking the normal way, selling idlis, competing with each other, and I had outthought the competition. That is where the Think for India. At age 8, if you are able to think the way I thought that day, I thought this could happen every day. And that is how the journey of a boy not going to school but successfully running a business of a hand cart selling idlis. Within 1 year, 2 years, I put up a shed selling idlis. Now I broad based it to vada and dosa. I started selling 1,000 rupees a month. I was very comfortable. Now, when I had reached the age of 16, 17, the handcart owner became my partner. So he said, Jawahar, what do you do? There should be some forward integration in whatever you do. So, okay, let's do one thing. I'll now handle this restaurant that we have. You go and do your hotel management. Now, that is the second phase of my face off, because I was going to be educated the first time. So, I gave my 12th, first division I passed. I was interested in studying. And also, the learning used to happen from the laborers who come to my handcart, and they would give me a lot of learning lessons. That is one. They would talk, my wife ran away, my child is not going to school, he is having tobacco, all these things. I used to think, how does a person behave in a certain manner? And that is what got me interested in psychology. But that's just the back of my mind. To sustain, I had to do hotel management. So the second important thing is that as a small child, if I am working from 5:30 in the morning till 11:30, I used to wash the utensils early in the days when I used to sell idli. There was a lot of stress building into my body, physical stress. And I found out a way of dealing with it by going for all the movies that were released in the cinema hall at that time. And that is how I became a movie buff. So Ek Chutki Sindur Ki कीमत example comes from that movie buff thing. I keep using it in all commercial enterprises, including my BAP ratings, which you can look at. Now, these are the three people who were behind my Think for India movement. One is my mother, illiterate, but she would understand that my boy is not going to school and the rest of the children are going to school because of him. So what she would do, she would learn for the 6 days, and on Sunday, she would teach me whatever she had learned. So that is one contribution that my mother gave, that you should think about others also. So think for movement of India is something that my mother taught me. The Florinda teacher thing. So when I went to the hotel management thing, I was not knowing English. So I was getting into a bus. There were some boys in the Hotel Management Institute who were good in English. They were teasing me why he doesn't know English. This lady got up with short hair, fair lady, looked like a teacher to me, and she scolded the boys. Why do you tease him? He doesn't know English. Okay. So when they got down from the bus, she called me and said, do you want to learn English? I said, fantastic. Yes, I want to learn. So he says, you should come to Park Street. I'll teach you how to learn English. So every day, 5 words for me, 6 to 7 in the evening. Next day, I have to go back, put those words into sentences that I have understood, and then she would give me bread and butter. This happened for 3 years. Whatever I am speaking to you in front of any audience across the world, 76 countries, today is my 1500th lecture, public interface. This lady has taught me to talk in English. I write for the Times of India, speaking tree, all because of this lady. But as usual, we became selfish. I stopped thinking when I finished my graduation. Again, we built up an empire. And I said, I don't want to do this hotel business. I want to get into psychology. So I forgot Florinda teacher for some time. I'll come back to that later. Now, Bollywood is the other teacher. All of us learn ABCD the way we learn. But I learnt D.O. and Don, crazy fan of Amitabh Bachchan. My first 3 letters was from the poster of Don, the old Don of Amitabh Bachchan, and D.O.N. were the first. So I started learning my alphabets in English from the movie posters that used to be there. So Bollywood is my third teacher. So my mother the first, Florinda teacher second, and Bollywood the third. Now, when I'll come to this later. Now, as we started progressing, there were governments coming in. After I did the Dharavi is one place in Mumbai, most of you know, they are the slums. So I started teaching children disadvantaged children on how to study, how to think. Majorly, I was teaching them how to think. So UNICEF picked me up and said, do your research and come back and teach these children. So UNICEF sponsored my PhD, and that's how I did my university. I didn't pay a single penny from there. So again, there is a whole world out there which respects your thought. So anybody who thinks that I don't have the resources and things are gone for me, my father has not left any legacy to me, please forget it. If you have the thoughts, nobody can steal that from you. Everything else will go. So your beauty, your smartness, your everything, if you have a fantastic thought process which is evolved, please go ahead and do it. I'll give you a small example from here. So Samsung had come up with an innovators conference in the US. And I was one of the 8 innovators who had invited there, and the only Indian. So when I went there, the challenge given by the UN was, by 2030 we'll have no water or less water. How do we save water? This was in 2000. So all of them were engineers, technically. So they said reverse osmosis, this, we'll pull water from the sea, that. I was a novice. I didn't know anything. So psychology postgraduate, but I didn't have any background of science. But the common sense was there. So I said, and I am telling you this, that an average human being pisses 5 times a day and shits 1 time a day. And that time the flush was 5 liters, you press the button, it flushes. I said, if you want to save water, then have 2 buttons. When you piss, press the smaller button, 2 liters. When you shit, press the bigger button, 5 liters. So you save 5 times 3 liters each, 15 liters. Each human being saves 15 liters. And that was applauded by the UN that time. That is how, if you start thinking the way you should, irrespective of what background you are bound to be successful. So today, as the advisor to the Prime Minister of India, the only thing that I do is think for the country day in, day out, and think for India is what the movement says. Last, I want to give one more example, which I went to a big Ivy League university as a keynote speaker. And I was very proud. There were 1,300 vice chancellors in that conference. The president of the university gave a small introduction that Indian research is mostly cut copy paste. And I was the only Indian in the audience. So I didn't like it. I said, I'll get back. So when it was my turn to speak, I asked all of them, and I ask all of you, in preschool, what do you teach? So one vice chancellor got up and said, we teach A to Z 1 to 10. I said, with all the original research that you do, we also teach A to Z 1 to 10. But when you are teaching 1 to 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is fine. But when you are teaching 10, have you taught the 0? And blank, it was blank. The problem is, my parents taught me 1 to 10, my teachers taught me 1 to 10, I have not questioned them. Their parents taught them 1 to 10, their teachers taught them 1 to 10. They didn't question them. Because there is no thought process on what we should learn which will be useful to us in life. That questioning of whether this is right or not is something that Generation Z is doing right now. We didn't do in our generation. So no social change happens until you question the existing norms. And that I started then. And then at the end of that ceremony, I was given a lot of money to do research on how we should teach small kids of age 3 to 6, funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So the session started with India being told that your research is cut, copy, paste. And the end of the session was an Indian being given a grant to do research on how children should be taught there. So that is one achievement of the Think for India movement. And Think for India is basically for the young boys and girls in rural disadvantaged areas who might not know English like me, but who can think the way everybody else can think because they have a brain. So this is Think for India movement. We also have digital well-being, which is a mobile addiction innovation that has happened. You can look for App Prison and you will find it. We also have Happy, HAPP, which is actually happiness and peace. And I feel that India at 123rd in the list of Global Happiness Index, I was not feeling very good. So I thought that we should do something, and that's why Happy came in. I think about it, it sums it all that in irrespective of what you do educationally at home, if your thought process is clear, so you might say Bill Gates is 8th pass or something like that. You might say all that. But for me, my mother remains an enigma. The reason I am saying that I might be whatever I am today, but my mother, if I start talking here for 3 hours, I'll get bored. You might also get bored listening to me for 3 hours. But my mother, day in, day out, from the time you are going to school, if you say 7:30, I have a lecture to listen in the university, she will get up at 6:30 or 5:30, prepare breakfast, wake you up, put breakfast in front of you, and your age, let's say it's 21. For years now, she has been doing the same thing. The taste has not gone down. But for me, if you say, please do your engineering mechanics, study your engineering mechanics for 3 days, I'll be bored. So for me, the mother has an ambition there that my children should be the best in whatever I can do. And that fixed ambition, like the small girl who told that my ambition was fixed. If my mother, being lesser literate than me, can fix an ambition, why cannot I? And that is where the Think for India movement started. I said that if you give us 5 minutes a day in schools, we will try and activate the brain to make it more conducive for learning with fun. So that is the basic aim of Think for India movement. I only invite all of you, go through whatever resources you think you have available. The name is this and not what is written, why is written at the end. You can go through all resources that are there free of cost. Reach out to me. I am a part of the Startup India movement also. Anytime if you think, because I am interacting with around 1 lakh of youth across the world every year and 2 lakh parents, you can be 1 lakh 1, you can be 1 lakh 2. Reach out to me. I'll reply to you definitely. And I'll try to share whatever thoughts I have. So that's all from me. Thank you very much.